Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're excited to have you today. Question is, what is your time worth? We have a project today on a chair that was inherited by my wife, and we got quoted on this chair to reupholster it $1,300 per chair. We have two of them. And we decided, it's not worth it to us to do $1,300 per each of these chairs to go buy new ones. So why not go source some leather from some couches, because it's cheaper than necessarily buying the leather just outright. And so we looked online, we found these chairs for $275 and decided let's pick them up and go. They seemed in good order, good shape, and we could rip them down pretty well. We also later found other couches for free that you could find. Now, with leather, you have to figure out if it's real leather or fake leather. And you don't want to get the fake stuff because it will just flake off on you. So after loading it up in the truck and taking it back home, we started on the process of tearing it down. Now, this is our first time doing anything like this. I guess it is a pretty big project to do on your first try. But the materials and stuff that we needed from it and the cost to do it was, I guess, just our time. So again, what is your time worth? Is your time worth being able to spend doing all this? And we wanted to see what it would turn out to be. That tool that you see being used, that blue handle, that is a staple remover. They're like $8-9 on Amazon. We'll share all the costs at the end of this for what it took for us. But we were so meticulous on trying to get this put down well. And in the end, I would have just taken a razor blade, cut through it, and been done instead of taking out all the staples from this. It was so much of a hassle. A razor blade would just rip it down real quick. We learned our lesson on the second couch, and we just ripped it down. But as you can see, we take so much time just trying to get the chair broken down altogether. Now, what we wish we would have known prior to this is that you're going to need the compressor and staple gun to do so, and that you could just rip it down with a razor blade and rip off everything that you needed. Like you can kind of see here where I'm ripping it. Wish we would have done that a lot sooner instead of the staples. You just rip all the way through. It's a lot faster. You could take off all the leather from there, and then we're good to go. The other thing we wish we would have known was the chair can be disassembled completely prior to ripping things down. And this is just the leather couches that we're ripping down. As you can see in the background, we're going to rip down the chair later. The chair, on the other hand, we were very meticulous on getting those done just right. And the reason was we wanted to use them as patterns for the leather. And that helped us out in a very big way. So if you're going to reupholster something, you need to have a pattern for what you're trying to do, unless you're really good and can make your own. And so we right here trying to save as much of the leather as possible. But with the regular chair, it was necessary for us to be very picky on how we ripped those down. As we get this all put together, we then are going to lay this out to make sure that everything fits together. And like right here, I wish we would have just broke it down completely before ripping out any of the staples. You could see taking off the staples here, and which was one necessary part. But everything else, just unscrew everything, take it apart completely, and then rip it off. We ran into so many snags that way. Now, if you're going to start a project yourself on something like this, to tell you the truth, you're not going to know everything before getting into it, so you do kind of have to just jump in head first. And it's a lot of manual labor in one of these and tedious work. I'm not the kind of person that loves simple tasks over and over and over again, but you just have to do them sometimes. So laying out the leather here, we're just trying to figure out, we want to use the biggest pieces first for what we're trying to do. That way, the smaller pieces at the end, we could patch together if we needed to. The only thing that we didn't have that we needed was, as you see us marking these ones off here, we're trying to cut up some of those to make squares. The squares were going to be used for the back of the chair. And as we were putting this together, trying to sew the back of the chair together, we noticed that the sewing machine could do 2 pieces of leather together simply, and it could do that. It could kind of get through 3, but it definitely can't get through 4. So when we're trying to make 4 squares sewn together all the way, it wasn't working out. My cousin, who is here helping us out at the same time, he has an industrial sewing machine, has worked on upholstery before. We decided to ask him for some help and to coach us through this. He was willing to do so. We're very grateful for him, and in fact, we'll link his Instagram of his leather work in the bio of this as well. He's very good at what he does and was a good, tremendous help for us learning how to put this all together. But as you see there, putting a little notch in the leather to make sure you're lining everything up just right when you're trying to put it together the right way. And right here, we have 2 pieces sewn together already in the squares, and now we're trying to connect all 4. And this is where it gets bound up a little bit as we go down through here. You can see it actually working through the 2. And then as it gets closer to that 4, it just binds up. And we're like, oh, this isn't going to work, so might as well kick this idea. And we were able to get my cousin to be able to help us out with that. We cut all the squares, we got them all lined up, and then sent them up with him. He was able to sew through them pretty quickly. Now you're going to run into snags all the time with this kind of stuff. But there's always a thought process with other things in your life as well, like mowing the lawn, housework, that kind of stuff. At some point, if you make enough money from working, you actually could buy your time back if you pay somebody else to do the work instead. So in this case, was it worth us paying somebody $1,300 to rip down the chairs, get the cushion back into it, source the material out and cut it up and put it on there all the way? Very well could have been for us, where we could go make that money a few times over with the hours that we put into doing this, and would have had extra time to do other things. But at the same time, we felt like doing this as a project and then recording it would eventually be something that would be returned to us as well, and that the value of that was greater. So that's the way we went. Once we got the other things put together, we figured let's go put the chair together as much as possible. Now, there were a couple of fasteners that we needed to do this. We used some adhesive spray here, about $10 or so for the adhesive spray. We put on additional padding as we wanted to in these areas as well. But we basically reverse engineered the way we took off the fabric from the chair and put the leather on in the opposite order. So this was the last piece that came off and the first piece that went on. We then did some piping around it and then put the arm on first, where we could then fold it over. And then we put the side on. Now the side was a cool piece because all we did was take the side of the couch that was already sewn together, cut it into shape, and then we used that. So we didn't have to sew anything on that side. The other leather parts here, just found simple backing of the back of the chair, and we just stapled it as crazy as possibly can. You staple a piece, you pull, you make sure it's tight, you staple some more, and that way it just stays tight the whole time. We wanted to go from inside to outside. That way we could cut off any additional stuff that we didn't need and just staple it all together. We just used a simple 5-gallon tank compressor to do this because a staple gun, you don't need much. So very little on that. In fact, we borrowed these tools from family. And so we didn't have all of these tools to do it. We just figured we'll go for it. We have some family that have some of these tools and we can borrow it. Here's the arm being put on. That side got put on first, and then the second side, there is a fastener that is metal with triangle teeth that go with it as well. And that one, you can staple one side, flip the fabric of whatever you're using over, and then staple that metal piece in, which grabs whatever material you're using and pulls it nice and tight, so you don't have to see. You can hide all of your fastening material, and it's just smooth and nice. You'll see at the end what it should look like. But ask yourself, as you're doing your job, as you're working, does my current career have the income potential to provide the lifestyle that I want? Does it? If it doesn't, I would suggest that you get up and get moving. Do something different. Now here's the cost breakdown of the rest of the couch. It was under $350 that we spent putting these chairs together. We got 2 of them out of it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please share, like, subscribe.